Well, it is official. The NBA is back. The bubble is set. We are going to Orlando. And don't get me wrong, I'm ecstatic, I'm excited, I'm counting down the days until July 30th, but the entire return as a whole doesn't sit right with me. There are two major stories going on that aren't allowing me to buy all the way in. The coronavirus pandemic and the fight for systemic change in America. So one of my main questions is, what happens if a player breaks the bubble? Are we going to see an altercation with the law enforcement outside? Are we going to see suspensions handed out? I find it hard to believe that if a player of the stature of like LeBron or Giannis or any other superstar breaks the bubble, that they're going to be suspended. Now, no matter what the NBA tells you, one of the largest reasons for them coming back is the TV contracts at play here. Especially because there's not going to have any fans in attendance buying merch and sodas and everything. They're not making that money. So TV ratings and viewers are huge. And I don't see them suspending any of their main attractions over breaking the bubble. And I think my largest question I have here is, when is the spread enough to cause worry? Adam Silver has said that if there is significant spread that it might shut down, but what is significant? Are we talking a whole team testing positive? Is someone going to have to be fighting for their life against the coronavirus to be considered significant? Are we talking about staff in this situation as well? It just seems like the NBA has oversimplified so many solutions for such complex issues, at least to the public eye. Hearing the stories coming out, such as Avery Bradley's reasoning for sitting out, make me question the priorities of everyone involved in the NBA decision-making. There's no question that everyone loves basketball that is involved in making these decisions, but at what point does that love become blinding? To me, the coronavirus question has a simple answer. Is it worth putting everyone at risk to finish the season? No, not at all. And I mean, COVID research is increasing by the day, and as more and more results come out, you see different side effects such as permanent lung damage, and that's just what we know right now. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, and I'll never claim to be one, but permanent lung damage sounds awful, especially if your job is running up and down a basketball court for a living. And while every player in the NBA isn't in the most endangered age range, just because you're not dying doesn't mean that you're not being harmed. The idea that if you don't die, you're fine is pretty ridiculous and is a dangerous state of mind to have. Just because you aren't going to die now does not mean that you're not harming yourself for the future. And that's a balance that the NBA has seemingly ignored throughout the decision of bringing back the season. Now, moving on to the topic of the fight against systemic racism. And this is not a simple answer in the slightest, and I want to start off with this first. As a white male sports journalist who is looking to make a living off reporting on sports that have rosters that are majority filled with black athletes, my opinion on what is the right way to go about speaking against social injustice, one, should not be voiced louder than any African American's opinion, and two, doesn't matter right now. My role in the world right now is to listen and learn while uplifting the black leaders of my community. And this includes whatever the NBA players decide on doing. Knowing my role, it is important to listen to both sides of the options fully when it comes to if the players should come back and play or not. In the NBA return equation, you have two sides. And first, I'm going to talk about what I'm going to label as the LeBron side. And this side is pro-playing and using the platform as a way to spread the message of Black Lives Matter. And this is presumably a great idea, depending on what the NBA does. Obviously, you'll hear from players like LeBron talking about it in limited capacity during interviews, but with limited media access due to the bubble restrictions, how many questions are going to be about the movement going on and compared to the games going on? If the NBA is going to plaster messages all across the broadcast about what actions can be taken and why they should be taken, then that's great. But the chance of that feels low. And putting Black Lives Matter on the court and allowing players to change, the names on their jerseys are cool and good ideas. But if actions aren't being promoted, it almost just feels like a black square social media post for the NBA. And yes, the NBA is technically the progressive league compared to the other major leagues in the United States. But let's be clear, these teams are still owned by powerful business people who care about their money a lot. And most have not really put money back into the communities that a lot of their players come from. I worry that the messages that won't be as strong as people hope, but if the NBA is able to prove me wrong, then that's great. As long as they're pumping money back into the communities and organizations that have been impacted and are fighting the systemic racism. And honestly, with that, I have low hopes. The other side of the argument is the Kyrie Irving side. And I want to start off with how this side has been reported, because honestly, it's something that's been bothering me a ton recently. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski labeled Kyrie Irving as a disruptor once news broke that he was taking this stand. And it was really just because he brought a different opinion to the table. To me, this diminishes the possibility for debate and conversation to take place to decide between NBA players what the best way to take a stand is for them. And like I said at the beginning of this topic, It is not the place of white journalists to really offer anything right now, but to report exactly what black leaders are saying in our country. And I mean, at this point, it's the least we can do. And adding disruptor to that instantly discredits Kyrie Irving. And one reason I have heard to bring back the NBA is to bring this country back together and a sense of normalcy to come back. And on the surface, this makes sense. In my entire lifetime, I have never seen the United States so divided as it is right now. But what worries me is what happens when that normalcy comes back. This uncomfortable feeling that the country is producing it has a setting to it where change is finally actually somewhat occurring. And I worry that sports returning as a whole will begin to bring normalcy back before any real mass change has occurred. And Kyrie was making it clear that basketball might end up being a distraction or escape from the harsh reality that our country is facing right now and these tough conversations that are taking place. And I truly wonder what the difference would have been if a player besides Kyrie Irving had said this opinion. With Kyrie's history of questioning the norm, even if it is as wild as a flat earth suggestion, it allowed everyone to instantly take whatever Kyrie said and just label it as crazy and throw it in the trash. And honestly, in this situation, I think Kyrie Irving might have been right. Of course, I've voiced these concerns for the whole bubble situation, but I'll be watching every second of basketball on the 30th of July. And I'll be watching, hoping that the NBA has created a platform for their players to speak truly about what is going on in this country right now, while also fully expecting everything to go completely wrong with the coronavirus. If the NBA wants to truly be considered that progressive league, they need to make sure that they are providing this platform for their players and allowing them to speak as freely as they want, whenever they want. But they also need to be fully prepared that if the coronavirus spreads within the league, they need to be able to just admit that they were wrong and shut everything down ASAP.